After 7 years, Dan Stec is giving up his seat in the Assembly to run for the state Senate. 3 candidates are hoping to fill that seat in the Assembly in the 114th District that covers Lake Placid and all of Essex County. All 3 of the candidates running for the Assembly's 114th District seat say even though New York is facing a multi-billion-dollar deficit, only made worse by the COVID pandemic, the state has to come through with funding to help communities pay for critical infrastructure like water, sewer, and broadband. Republican Matt Simpson, who is the town supervisor in Horicon, says replacing aging water and sewer lines and expanding rural internet need to be priorities.
There's many communities throughout this district that are facing huge challenges with antiquated wastewater infrastructure. And it's a huge amount of money that is required to bring these up to standards. So while we know that we need to protect our environment, we really aren't funding these projects. They're so large and so costly that those communities, it's way beyond their means to be able to pay for that. So we really need to focus on solutions and prepare that infrastructure. Those are priority dollars that we need to do to really see true economic development and stability in our communities. Clean water and wastewater infrastructure is primary for good economic development. It really doesn't make a lot of sense to develop in projects above the ground if we haven't prepared the infrastructure that's required to support that business or that development.
Same thought about broadband?
Critical infrastructure, cellular and broadband. I've been involved in a lot of working groups in the Adirondack Park, and that is one of the top issues. And again, it's going to require a lot of money, a lot of investment, a lot of collaboration with for-profit companies to figure out how we're going to accomplish this. There's pole attachment fees that can be very costly for these companies, which results in a higher cost of doing business for that business, and also it gets sent down the line to the consumer, the people that really are benefiting from that.
And also DOT right away.
And DOT right away. And it's overhead too. There's actually a fee for the overhead lines. So while we're taxing that infrastructure, it just seems counterintuitive to tax infrastructure that's critical and essential to our communities.
And living in the Adirondacks, Simpson says protecting the environment is a must, including fighting invasive species, like the emerald ash borer discovered just a few weeks ago the next town over along the Scroon River, and the hemlock woolly adelgid found in recent weeks along the eastern shore of Lake George.
Those hemlocks that are being destroyed by the adelgid, they're part of the system that's protecting the lake and the lakefront of Lake George, and there's just millions and millions of hemlocks. I mean, we've seen the devastation in other parts of the state, and we don't want to see that here.
Simpson says even during these tough financial times, the state has to prioritize funding the environment and infrastructure, but without passing more costs on to taxpayers.
We can't go back to the taxpayers. We have high taxes right now, so that's not an option, but we need to reprioritize our spending and focus on the things that are important. I was a small business owner for over 30 years. I know how hard it is to be in business in New York and work paycheck to paycheck and still have to make those payroll checks for my employees. It's very difficult in this state, and faced with the impacts of COVID, it's probably not going to be any easier. It already is a big impact. There's people that have lost their jobs. There's businesses that may not open for the winter here, in our small community, and those are vital jobs for our residents. So there's impacts that are far-reaching to everybody, everybody's family.
The Democratic candidate is another member of the Warren County Board of Supervisors, Claudia Bremer from Glens Falls, an environmental lawyer who played in 2 World Cups for the U.S. women's national rugby team.
I care about our communities. I want to serve our working families and really do a great job for our children, our seniors, our small business owners like myself, the entrepreneurs that are coming to the area, and also the farmers that are throughout the district. And I think that I'll do a great job bringing a strong and effective voice to Albany for all of us.
No surprise, environmental issues are a big priority for Braymer, including combating climate change, and fighting invasive species, not only the newest ones like the ash borer and woolly adelgid, but also others that threaten Lake George and Adirondack waterways.
Another thing that's really problematic is the aquatic invasives, and we're seeing that in Lake George, the efforts to stop those, like the milfoils and the Asian clams, and we have a really strong boat inspection program, and I think that it's time to expand that to the entire park and make that a mandatory system throughout so that we're protecting all of the waters of all of our lakes in the Adirondack Park.
Fixing roads, bridges, water, and sewer lines are priorities, along with expanding broadband.
One of the things that I think is really important to our area is trying to bring some more state funding to improve our aging infrastructure. It's not really an exciting campaign topic, but it's something that we really need. It's been, we've had some investments for tourist-related attractions, and I think it's time that we spend a little more dollars and time and effort on our roads and bridges, and obviously broadband, which I know all the candidates are talking about that, but it's something that's really important for our children, teachers, doctors, and small business owners to be able to actually excel, especially in this new COVID world.
And folks in Essex County, in the Adirondacks, have been hearing for years that that last mile is coming, the final mile is coming, yet many of them are still going without or having to get it off satellite. So it's a big issue for a lot of people, especially now with COVID and remote learning.
Right. Progress has been made, but I think that it's going to take somebody a little bit younger like myself to really continue with an energetic push to get us through to that final mile, and really making sure that the private companies are doing everything that they said they were going to do with that grant money from the state.
What are some of the deterrents that are preventing them from coming in? There's the DOT right-of-way fees.
Right, exactly.
There's fees to place
on
lines
each of the individual poles. Yeah. And another thing that I'm learning is that there are some boundaries that are set by the census blocks, which don't always make sense because they're cutting right through the middle of a township, and you might have a house on one side of that block that's served and then a house that's on the other side that's not served. Why wouldn't you just connect the two instead of being bound by these arbitrary boundary lines? And making sure that it stays affordable for people, because with all those fees added on, if then the service provider passes all those fees on to the customer, it's not going to make it actually accessible to people if they can't afford that. So that's another thing that I really want to be careful we look at and address.
People probably wonder, though, with the state's fiscal situation right now, is there going to be money for things like broadband? Yeah.
I do hope that the governor and the legislature continues putting that money into the budget so that we can continue addressing that. And I think they will. I think, the governor talked about 20% cut across the board, but I don't think that that's going to be feasible. We need to keep moving forward with some of these important programs and services that the state and local governments provide. So it would be great to have that federal funding package come through for state and local funding.
Do you have any ideas how to tackle that?
Yeah, it is going to be daunting. And what I'm learning really is I'm just going to be one voice and a big C in the assembly. Luckily, I will be in the majority as a Democratic member of the assembly. And I've already made some connections with some other assembly people in our region, in the capital region and the North Country, like Assemblyman Billy Jones. So I think that if we work together as a collective bloc, we can help move some of those things forward for the North Country and especially Essex County.
And the third candidate in the race is the former supervisor in the town of Thurman, Evelyn Wood, now a medical claims specialist working at home on her farm during the pandemic. Wood says being out of politics for a couple of years has given her a perspective her opponents don't have.
I'm running for the assembly because I really, really feel like we get a lot of folks who start off in office and stay in office essentially until they retire. I was in office, I had a lot of wonderful experiences, learned a lot of things, handled a natural disaster, expanded the internet, but subsequent to being in office, I went back to work, and I've been punching a time clock, and essentially I'm a normal person just like so many other people in this district. I really think it's important that our political folks get out of office and kind of get a little bit of a reality check as to what's going on in the real world out there. It adds perspective, which I think is really important right now in Albany. I think there's a great disconnect between people who are elected and the people they're trying to represent.
For Wood, who helped her town after the floods of 2011 maintain roads and bridges, is a huge priority. Expanding broadband is another.
Obviously, with COVID, things have changed. So priority right now, internet access is huge. Kids in our district are at a serious disadvantage. We've been struggling with internet access for a while. If you research my history at all, you'll see I've always been huge in advocating for internet access, but I think it's even more priority now than it ever was before. Residential systems aren't designed to hold all the kids doing school at home, plus all of the people trying to work at home. So that's one facet, but the bottom line is quite frankly, we just don't have widespread, true high-speed internet connectivity throughout the district, and right now we desperately need it. So I really bumped that up. Well, it was always pretty high on my list. Right now it's the top of my list. There are so many parents struggling right now, and we need to do it as soon as possible. Other than that, I'm concerned about environmental impacts from terrestrial as well as aquatic, but particularly terrestrial invasive species at this point, and the maintenance of our roads and bridges. A lot of them could use some work.
So infrastructure.
Infrastructure in general, yes.
The town built its own network 7 years ago, but says the state needs to help more communities reach more people. Trouble is, Wood says, companies that were awarded grant money and laying lines got hit with new fees within the past year that have added huge costs.
And now the state is essentially taxing them to put internet in, and that is a huge problem. I reckon those companies are trying to come in, they're trying to help us out, and then the state, for all it says it wants us to have internet, has turned around and put a deterrent in that's just financially difficult for these companies to meet.
Wood says other priorities include tackling the invasive species that threaten the forest and dealing with warmer winters.
We know our snowmobile season is much shorter than it used to be. Obviously, there are changes, and I do agree. I do think that not having the cold, deep snow, heavy freezing winters like we used to is having an effect with the invasive species. I think it's, we're not seeing the winter kill that we used to. That has a real big impact. The other thing it's going to impact is our maple industry. They rely on deep snow, and then, of course, in the spring, the cold nights and the warm days. I've noticed in the last couple of years, just even on it's anecdotal, but our maple seasons have not run like they normally do.
But being a former supervisor, Wood says the budget deficit is a problem that needs addressing.
Well, I think the state's going to have to get ready to make some hard choices. Quite frankly, they've kind of gotten themselves here over a number of years. They did a lot of one-shots. They could have set that money they got back from the banks when they had all those bank settlements come in. They could have been more careful with that. They could have essentially saved for a rainy day like all the rest of us have to do. They didn't. They threw it in the budget. They kept going. And essentially, they've set us up for the perfect storm. There's just no other way to say it right now. We're going to have to make cuts if we're going to survive. It'd be wonderful if there is a federal stimulus of some kind to assist.
Wood says she believes being a third-party candidate will actually help her when it comes to getting things done in Albany.
There is a notion that if you're a third party, you're throwing your vote away if you vote third party. To be honest, with the gridlock between the Republicans and the Democrats, who are more important focused on fighting with each other as to who's the bad person, nobody's trying to get anything done down there. We need somebody that's down there. And yes, as a new assembly person, are you going to go rework the world? Nope, you're not. That's the truth of it. You're not. But somebody ought to be down there shaming the rest of them into doing something